Hashtag how one admiral burned down the galaxy for justice. The chains around Admiral Kera Voss's wrists clinked softly as she stood before the Galactic Tribunal, their cold metal a stark contrast to the heated fury radiating from the 47 species representatives arrayed before her. The massive courtroom stretched impossibly high, its crystalline walls designed to inspire awe and fear in equal measure. Today, they bore witness to the trial of the century. Admiral Voss, the chief arbiter's voice boomed through the chamber, his 3 eyes fixed upon her with undisguised contempt. You stand accused of 17 counts of genocide, the systematic destruction of 8 star systems, and the murder of 52 billion sentient beings. He paused, letting the numbers settle like stones in still water. How do you answer these charges? Kera lifted her chin, her gray eyes scanning the faces of those who had once called her hero. Representatives from species she had saved, worlds she had protected, allies who had trusted her judgment. Now they looked upon her with horror, confusion, and something worse than hatred, disappointment. Guilty, she said simply, her voice carrying clearly through the vast space. Guilty to every charge. A ripple of shock coursed through the assembled delegates. Many had expected defiance, justification, perhaps even madness. They had not expected this calm acceptance from the woman who had once been the galaxy's most decorated peacekeeper. The chief arbiter leaned forward, his expression puzzled. You offer no defense. No explanation for actions that plunged the galaxy into its darkest hour. Kera's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. I offer context, Your Honor. Because to understand my crimes, you must first understand how they began. She straightened, and for just a moment, the shackled prisoner disappeared, replaced by the commanding presence that had once inspired loyalty across 100 worlds. 3 years ago, I was not a monster. I was simply a soldier who believed in justice. Admiral Kera Voss had never lost a crew member. In 15 years of commanding the GSV Retribution, through border skirmishes, pirate raids, and diplomatic crises, she had brought every soul under her command home safely. It was a record unmatched in coalition history, built on careful planning, unwavering discipline, and an absolute adherence to regulations that had earned her respect across all member species. The Retribution's bridge hummed with quiet efficiency as they approached Theta Colony, another routine peacekeeping mission in what had become a distinguished career of routine successes. The mining dispute between human colonists and the native Zalani should have been simple mediation, the kind of careful diplomacy that had made Kera's reputation. Communications online, Admiral, reported Lieutenant Maya Voss from her station, offering her mother a small smile. At 22, Maya had inherited her mother's sharp intellect and steady nerves, qualities that made her the youngest communications officer in the fleet. Serving together had been Maya's idea, a chance to learn from the woman she most admired. Thank you, Lieutenant. Kera kept her voice professionally neutral, though pride warmed her chest. What's our ETA to Theta? 6 hours at current speed, came the reply from navigation. Kera nodded, studying the preliminary reports on her tablet. Standard resource allocation dispute, religious tensions, a handful of extremist groups on both sides. Textbook scenario. She had resolved dozens like it. Admiral, the censor officer's voice carried a note of confusion. I'm reading, that can't be right. Kera's attention sharpened. In 15 years, she had learned to trust her crew's instincts absolutely. Report. Energy signatures from Theta Colony are minimal. Population centers are showing almost no life signs. The bridge fell silent except for the hum of systems. Kera moved to the sensor station, her stomach beginning to knot. Clarify minimal. The young Eltarian officer's purple skin had paled to lavender. Ma'am, we should be reading approximately 50,000 human and Zalani life signs. I'm detecting fewer than 200. Kera's hands gripped the console edge. Emergency acceleration. Get us there now. The Retribution surged forward, but Kera knew with cold certainty that they were racing toward a disaster that had already concluded. The questions burning in her mind, who, how, why, would have to wait. First came the terrible arithmetic of catastrophe. Theta Colony's main settlement spread across a river valley like a wound in the earth. From orbit, the devastation was absolute. Buildings reduced to rubble, the mining facilities twisted into unrecognizable sculptures of melted metal, and over everything, the lingering energy signatures of military-grade weapons. Kara stood in the colony's central square 4 hours later, her boots crunching on broken glass and worse things she didn't want to identify. The smell of death hung heavy in the recycled air of her environmental suit. Around her, her security team moved through the rubble with grim efficiency, documenting evidence that painted an increasingly disturbing picture. Admiral, Chief Security Officer Torn approached, his usually impassive Voltraxi features showing unusual emotion. "You need to see this." He led her to what had been the colony's administrative center. The building's reinforced walls had been breached by weapons that shouldn't have existed in civilian hands, energy disruptors capable of cutting through coalition military armor like paper. "The preliminary report from command blames Solani extremists," Torn said quietly, his 4 arms gesturing to blast patterns on the walls. "But these weapon signatures." Kara knelt beside a particularly distinctive burn mark, running her scanner over the crystallized stone. The readings made her blood run cold. "These are coalition military weapons. Type 7 plasma disruptors. Which are classified above civilian clearance," Torn finished. "No extremist group should have access to this technology." Kara stood slowly, her mind racing through implications she didn't want to accept. "Continue the investigation. Full forensic analysis. I want every weapon signature catalogued, every blast pattern analyzed." "Admiral," Torn's voice carried a warning. "Command has ordered us to accept the preliminary findings and withdraw. Investigation is being transferred to Colonial Security." For the first time in her career, Admiral Kera Voss considered disobeying a direct order. The weight of 50,000 dead pressed down on her shoulders, their voices crying out for justice that the preliminary report would never deliver. "We follow orders, Chief," she said finally, hating herself for the words. "But we document everything first. Every piece of evidence gets recorded and filed. Officially." As they prepared to leave Theta Colony, Kara stared out at the ruined settlement one last time. Somewhere in that devastation lay the truth about what had really happened, and why her own government seemed so eager to bury it. The return journey to Coalition headquarters should have been routine, but Kara found herself spending long hours in her private quarters, poring over the evidence they had gathered. The weapon signatures haunted her, too advanced, too precise, too familiar. "Mother?" Maya's voice came through the door calm, "Come in, sweetheart." Maya entered, carrying 2 cups of coffee and wearing the expression she'd had since childhood when wrestling with difficult questions. "The crew is talking about Theta Colony. Some of them think that we should have investigated further." Kara accepted the coffee gratefully. "They're right to think that." Maya settled into the chair across from her mother's desk. "Then why didn't we?" Kara met her daughter's eyes, seeing her own moral certainty reflected there. "Because sometimes following orders is more important than following instincts. Even when those instincts are screaming. But what if the orders are wrong?" The question hung between them like a blade. Kara had built her career on the assumption that the coalition's command structure, however imperfect, served justice more often than it subverted it. Theta Colony was challenging that fundamental belief. "Then we trust that the system will self-correct," Kara said, but the words felt hollow even as she spoke them. Over the following weeks, as the Retribution returned to routine patrols, Kara couldn't shake the memory of those weapon signatures. During off-duty hours, she began researching similar incidents, extremist attacks that had conveniently justified increased coalition military presence in disputed territories. The pattern that emerged made her sick. 12 worlds in the past 2 years. 12 incidents blamed on extremist groups. 12 tragedies that had resulted in coalition military occupation and the convenient resolution of resource disputes in favor of coalition interests. And in every case, the weapon signatures showed the same impossible sophistication. Kera was deep in her research when the priority message arrived from Coalition Command. She read it twice, her hands trembling with growing rage. Classified, Eyes Only TO, Admiral Kera Voss, GSV retribution from, Defense Minister J. Thane Re, personnel transfer effective immediately, Lieutenant Maya Voss is transferred to deep space reconnaissance duties aboard the GSV Pathfinder. Assignment duration, indefinite. Ship departure, 72 hours. Transfer is non-negotiable and serves critical coalition interests. End message. Kera stared at the screen, her mind reeling. Maya had been scheduled for promotion and a posting to coalition headquarters. This transfer to one of the most dangerous assignments in the fleet wasn't career advancement, it was a threat. The timing was too convenient, too pointed. Someone knew about her investigation. She found Maya in the recreation lounge, laughing with fellow officers over a card game. The sight of her daughter's genuine happiness made Kera's heart clench. In 72 hours, Maya would be gone, sent into the void as insurance against her mother's inconvenient moral convictions. Maya, can I speak with you privately? They walked to the observation deck, where the stars wheeled slowly past the reinforced transparisteel. Kera had always found peace here, but tonight the vastness felt oppressive. You've received new orders, Kera said without preamble. Maya's expression shifted from confusion to understanding to quiet dread. Deep space assignment. The Pathfinder. Extended reconnaissance. Maya was quiet for a long moment, staring out at the stars. This is about Theta Colony, isn't it? About whatever you've been researching in your quarters. Kera wanted to lie, to protect her daughter from the weight of conspiracy and corruption that she was only beginning to understand. But Maya deserved the truth. I think so, yes. Then don't stop. Maya turned to face her mother, and Kera saw a strength there that reminded her why she had joined the coalition in the first place, to protect people like her daughter, people willing to stand for justice even when it cost them everything. Whatever you found, whatever they're trying to hide, don't let them stop you. Kera pulled her daughter into a fierce embrace. I love you, Maya. Whatever happens, remember that. I love you too, Mom. And I'm proud of you. 72 hours later, Kera stood in the Retribution's launch bay, watching the shuttle carry her daughter away. She had memorized Maya's face through the viewport, holding on to that last smile like a talisman against the darkness she was about to enter. The shuttle's departure trajectory would take it to a rendezvous with the Pathfinder in the Kepler Nebula, 6 days away. Kera returned to her quarters and accessed her private files, reviewing everything she had discovered about the pattern of extremist attacks. The evidence was damning, but incomplete. She needed more: communication records, logistics reports, anything that could prove the coalition's complicity in genocide disguised as counterterrorism. For 3 weeks, Kera walked a careful line between duty and investigation. She used her security clearance to access classified databases, employed her network of contacts across the fleet, and slowly built a case that made her stomach turn. Defense Minister Thane wasn't just aware of the false flag operations, he was orchestrating them. The plan was elegant in its brutality: create crises that justified coalition expansion, eliminate problematic populations under the guise of fighting extremism, and consolidate power under the banner of galactic security. Theta Colony had been a test case. If successful, 6 more species were targeted for similar, extremist cleansing. 30 billion sentient beings marked for death to serve the coalition's vision of order. The scope of the conspiracy reached into every level of command. Admirals she had served with, generals she had respected, politicians she had trusted, all complicit in a genocide that would dwarf any atrocity in recorded history. Kera finished compiling her evidence at 0300 ship time, her eyes burning from hours of reading casualty projections and elimination schedules. The moral weight of what she had discovered threatened to crush her, but she knew her duty. The message to Coalition High Command was succinct: classified, urgent TO, Admiral Council, Coalition High Command from Admiral Kera Voss, GSV Retribution Re, Critical Intelligence, Theta Colony and related incidents. Attached evidence demonstrates systematic coalition involvement in false flag operations resulting in civilian casualties. Request immediate investigation and cessation of all related activities. Evidence package, 47 files, 15,000 pages of documentation. Admiral Kera Voss commanding, GSV Retribution. She transmitted the message and sat back to wait for justice. The response came 18 hours later. Not from the Admiral Council, but from Defense Minister Thane himself. Priority 1, Eyes Only TO, Admiral Kera Voss from, Defense Minister J. Thane. Admiral Voss, your recent message contains serious accusations and classified materials obtained without authorization. These allegations are unfounded and potentially treasonous. You will report to Starbase 7 for debriefing within 48 hours. All files related to your investigation will be surrendered upon arrival. Any further distribution of these materials will result in court-martial and charges of sedition against the coalition. Consider this your only warning. Defense Minister J. Thane. Kera read the message 3 times, her hands steady despite the fury building in her chest. No investigation. No consideration of the evidence. Just threats and intimidation. She was still staring at the screen when the emergency klaxon sounded throughout the ship. Admiral, to the bridge immediately, came the urgent voice of her first officer. Kera ran through the corridors, her mind racing through possibilities. As she burst onto the bridge, the expressions of her crew told her everything she needed to know. Report, she ordered, though she already knew the answer would destroy what remained of her faith in the system she had served. Priority distress signal from the GSV Pathfinder, her communications officer reported, his voice hollow. They came under attack 6 hours ago in the Kepler Nebula. The ship was, there were no survivors, Admiral. The bridge seemed to tilt around Kera. Maya's ship. Maya's assignment. Maya, who had been sent into danger as leverage against her mother's inconvenient investigation. What attacked them? The words came out as a whisper. Unknown vessels. Energy signatures match no known species. The communications officer's professional demeanor cracked. Admiral, the weapon signatures, they're similar to what we found at Theta Colony. Coalition weapons. Coalition ships, disguised or off-book, had murdered her daughter and 47 other young officers whose only crime was serving under an admiral who had seen too much. Kera stood in the center of her bridge, surrounded by officers who had trusted her to keep them safe, who believed in the justice she had once embodied. In that moment, she made a choice that would damn her soul and save the galaxy. Navigation, plot a course for the Kepler Nebula. Emergency speed. Admiral, her first officer said quietly, Command has ordered us to Starbase 7. Kera turned to look at him, and he stepped back from what he saw in her eyes. Commander, I need you to understand something. The coalition just murdered my daughter to keep me quiet about evidence of planned genocide. They have corrupted every level of command, and they will kill anyone who threatens their plans. She moved to the central command console, her fingers dancing over controls she had mastered 15 years ago. In approximately 30 minutes, I am going to access classified networks and download intelligence that will prove everything I just said. Anyone who doesn't want to be part of what comes next should request transfer to the shuttle bay now. The bridge was silent except for the hum of the engines. Her crew, her family, looked at each other, weighing loyalty against prudence, justice against survival. One by one, they returned to their stations. Maya always said you were the most honorable person she knew, her communications officer said quietly. Show us what honor looks like when the system fails. For the next 6 hours, Kera and her loyal crew committed treason on a scale unprecedented in coalition history. They accessed Defense Minister Thane's personal files, his communication logs, his operational schedules. They downloaded deployment orders for the coming genocide, target lists containing the names of worlds marked for extinction, and logistics reports for the fleet movements that would make it possible. What they discovered made Theta Colony look like a minor atrocity. The coalition had identified 6 species as incompatible with galactic order. Their elimination was scheduled to begin in 18 months, disguised as responses to escalating extremist activities. 30 billion sentient beings would die, their worlds claimed for human expansion, their resources feeding the coalition's vision of a pure, ordered galaxy. But Kera had also found something else in Thane's files. Something that changed everything. The coalition had been developing experimental weapons for decades, technology designed as a last resort against alien invasion. Quantum cascade bombs capable of destabilizing entire star systems, turning suns into weapons of unimaginable destruction. Thane controlled 17 of these weapons, stored in coalition stronghold systems throughout the galaxy. With them, he could eliminate any opposition to his genocidal plans. Or, Kera realized with crystalline clarity, she could eliminate him. The moral arithmetic was staggering. Each coalition stronghold system contained between 2 and 7 billion inhabitants. But destroying those systems would cripple the conspiracy, prevent the planned genocide, and save 30 billion lives. 50 billion would die to save 30 billion. The mathematics of monsters, calculated in a war room that had once been her daughter's favorite place to visit. Kera stood in her private quarters, staring at a photograph of Maya taken just days before her transfer. Her daughter's smile seemed to illuminate the room, full of hope and trust in a universe that had revealed itself to be cruel beyond measure. "I'm sorry, sweetheart," Kera whispered to the image. "I'm about to become everything you believed I wasn't. But maybe that's what love really means, being willing to damn yourself to protect what matters." She activated her personal log and began to record. Personal log, Admiral Kera Voss, stardate 2387.156. In approximately 6 hours, I will begin systematic attacks against coalition stronghold systems using quantum cascade weapons obtained through treasonous acts against my government. These attacks will result in the deaths of approximately 50 billion sentient beings. I am not doing this for revenge, though my daughter's murder demands justice. I am not doing this for glory, though history may call me hero or villain as it chooses. I am doing this because 30 billion people are scheduled to die, and this is the only way to prevent that genocide. Let the record show that I am of sound mind, that I understand the magnitude of my crimes, and that I accept full responsibility for every life lost. I do not ask for forgiveness. I ask only that those who survive build something better from the ashes I am about to create. End log. The first quantum cascade bomb detonated in the Centauri system at 1347 Galactic Standard Time, turning a main sequence star into a brief, brilliant supernova that consumed 3 worlds and 2.7 billion lives in less than 30 seconds. Kera watched the destruction from the Retribution's bridge, her face carved from stone as she witnessed the birth of her own damnation. Around her, her crew maintained their posts with grim professionalism, each of them now complicit in the greatest act of terrorism in galactic history. "Communications," she said quietly, "broadcast the evidence package on all frequencies. Every species, every world, every ship. Let them know why this is happening." As the first reports of the Centauri system's destruction spread across the galaxy, Kera's evidence followed in its wake. Transcripts of Thane's conversations, logistics reports for the planned genocide, targeting lists with 30 billion names marked for death. The galaxy convulsed in shock, rage, and desperate disbelief. But in the chaos, something unprecedented began to happen. Species that had been enemies for centuries started sharing information, comparing notes, realizing how close they had come to systematic extinction. "Admiral," her tactical officer reported, "Coalition fleets are moving to intercept us." "Then we move faster," Kera replied. "Navigation, plot course for the Altair stronghold. Maximum speed." The second quantum cascade bomb destroyed the Epsilon Eridani system 4 hours later. 4 billion more lives snuffed out in an instant, 4 billion more souls added to the weight on Kera's conscience. But with each system she destroyed, the coalition's ability to execute its genocidal plans diminished. Command structures collapsed, logistics networks failed, and the carefully orchestrated genocide began to crumble. The war lasted 11 months. 11 months of running battles across the galaxy as Kera's small fleet, swollen by defectors who had seen the evidence of planned genocide, hunted down and destroyed coalition strongholds. Each victory was paid for in billions of lives, each triumph a fresh damnation. By the end, 8 star systems had been reduced to expanding clouds of stellar debris. The coalition government had collapsed, its leadership dead or in hiding, its military scattered and demoralized. The planned genocide had been prevented, but at a cost that staggered the imagination. 52 billion sentient beings had died in the quantum fire Kera had unleashed. She could have continued fighting. Her followers were loyal, her cause just, her tactical position strong despite the losses. But as she stood on the bridge of the Retribution, watching the wreckage of the galaxy she had helped destroy, Admiral Kera Voss made her final command decision. "Send a message to all coalition remnant forces," she ordered. Admiral Kera Voss surrenders unconditionally. "I will present myself for trial within 72 hours. Her crew stared at her in shock. They had followed her through hell itself, had helped her commit the most terrible necessary evil in history. "Admiral," her first officer said quietly, "you could disappear. The Outer Rim territories would welcome you. You've saved them from genocide." Kera shook her head. "I've killed 50 billion people. I don't get to run from that, no matter how necessary it was." She straightened her uniform one last time, feeling the weight of every star she had extinguished. Some prices have to be paid in full. "And that," Admiral Kera Voss said to the Galactic Tribunal, "is how I burned down the galaxy for justice." The courtroom remained silent as her words echoed in the vast space. Representatives of 47 species sat with the weight of her confession, struggling to process the moral complexity of what they had heard. The chief arbiter leaned forward, his 3 eyes reflecting something that might have been understanding. "You accept responsibility for 52 billion deaths." "I do." "And you claim this genocide was necessary to prevent a greater genocide?" Kera met his gaze steadily. "I don't claim anything, Your Honor. I simply state the facts. Defense Minister Thane planned to kill 30 billion people. I prevented that by killing 50 billion people. History will judge whether that trade was worth making." "And what would you say to history, Admiral?" For the first time since the trial began, Kera's composure cracked slightly. "I would say that sometimes there are no good choices. Only necessary ones." She paused, and when she spoke again, her voice carried the weight of every star she had murdered. "I would say that I loved my daughter, I loved the galaxy, and I was willing to damn myself to protect both." The tribunal deliberated for 3 days. When they returned, the chief arbiter's expression was grave. "Admiral Kera Voss, this tribunal finds you guilty of all charges. You have committed genocide on an unprecedented scale, and no circumstances can fully excuse such crimes." He paused, studying the woman who had saved and damned the galaxy in equal measure. "However, we also acknowledge that your actions prevented an even greater atrocity. The evidence you provided has been verified, and Defense Minister Thane's conspiracy would indeed have resulted in the systematic extinction of 6 species. The sentence was life imprisonment, but with a provision that shocked the galaxy. A memorial would be built on Kepler Station, where Maya Voss and her fellow officers had died. It would bear a simple inscription, 'To those who choose damnation so others may live free.'" As the guards led her away, Kera Voss looked one last time at the representatives of the species she had saved and doomed. In their faces, she saw the future, uncertain, fragile, but alive with possibility. The galaxy would rebuild. New laws would prevent another Thane from rising to power. Species would work together as never before, united by the shared trauma of how close they had come to extinction. And in a cell on a forgotten prison world, the woman who had murdered 50 billion people to save 30 billion more would spend the rest of her life wondering if any other choice had been possible. But late at night, when the weight of her crimes threatened to crush her spirit entirely, Admiral Kera Voss would remember her daughter's smile and know with absolute certainty that some prices were worth paying. Even when the currency was your own soul. The galaxy burned, but it survived. And sometimes, in a universe full of impossible choices, survival was the only justice that mattered.